You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty. Life is not easy. It never was, and it never will be. A good life takes grit. Prioritize who you are and who you want to be, because life isn't fair, and a little grit can make all the difference. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call, and I am joined by my brother, the Gritty Broman. How are you, Brent?
I'm well, thank you.
Today's podcast is with Blaine Dickerson of Curtis Frank Designs. Blaine is the artistic, woodworking designer genius that helped build the Gritty Studio. He's the one. If you've seen the photos, you've seen he built the live edge table and the slab with the. What do you call these bow tie-ins?
Metal
and
bow
stuff.
ties.
Kind of the layout, the barn wood look. He's the guy that did that. He also built out, if you've been to the Mountain Ops building, he built most of the hardware, furniture, all the woodworking was him. It's a great podcast because as I got to know Blaine, he's a creative genius, super talented, inspiring person. We sat down with him and just had a great conversation. So if you want to be inspired, you want to follow or hear the ideas from someone who's extremely gifted and successful in the space they're in, sit down, sit tight, and listen to the show. It's a good show. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you do also. Brent edited the show. Brent especially enjoyed it because
it's one of my favorites.
It's not necessarily hunting related.
It has nothing to do with that. It's just it's funny, and Blaine's just a really cool guy. It's really interesting, and I like the podcast. Kind of drifts. We didn't really know. We had one or two things we
sat down and had a conversation.
Yeah.
You're going to like it, folks. I honestly think if you take the time to listen to it, you will like it. Another one that I think that I really enjoyed, that I think if you skipped it, you should go back, is the lion hunting podcast I did with Randy Pixler. It's just a good podcast. Whether you're a lion hunter or not, whether you're into predator hunting or not, you should give it a listen. The other one we just finished was the turkey hunt with a great cast of guys. Sloan Brown. We got Brian Bassham and Matt Davis, and they share their worst misses, haunting mistakes, things like that. If you missed that one, check that one out. It was really good too. Getting a lot of positive feedback on those shows. But today is with Blaine Dickerson. Stud. Hope you enjoy it. Do we have anything? Oh, I want to announce one thing. We have movie night coming up in Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So we're going to bring our gritty film Untamed to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and it's going to be awesome. We're going to do tons of giveaways, free gear. You're going to see an awesome movie. The tickets can be bought at mountainops.com/events. Mm-hmm. Come out for a great night. It's going to be awesome.
There's a couple of movies that are going to be playing. We're going to have a film from Chad Mendez called Discipline. Mm-hmm. Another one from Angry Mountain Productions, their DIY elk hunt.
That's with Jason Phelps.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Trevor Farnes from Mountain Ops has one called Time and Attention.
Yep.
And then we have our film Untamed.
It's going to be a fun night. It was a sellout night here at the Western Hunt Expo when we showed the film here in Utah, and just so much positive feedback. It was cool. People loved it. It's going to be a good night. So if you're interested in attending, you live in PA, join us. It's going to be awesome. Go to mountainops.com/events, get your tickets. We anticipate it selling out fast. Last time it did. I think it'll sell out here. We got a lot of cool people in PA who love what we do. It's right around the time of the Total Archery Challenge, isn't it? Same week?
Yeah, it is May 29th.
So if you're going to the Total Archery Challenge event in Pennsylvania, join us for the movie night.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yep. Anything else, Brent?
I have something I want to share. As people know,
I'm a little worried now.
You shouldn't be. It's nothing I haven't expressed before. I don't like other people's mouth noises.
Oh.
Specifically when people are eating.
Yeah?
Yeah, my wife and I went to go hang out with some friends of ours. And they have like 5 kids. Mm-hmm. And the oldest one's like 6. And so I just kind of assumed that there would be a lot of and other unpleasant noises.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the kids that were making an awful noise. Their dad had an infection, and he had an infected tooth, and his mouth had been swollen up. He had just been to the dentist and got the whole tooth pulled, so his mouth was swollen up. So for dinner, we had soup, tomato soup, and he had this big ladle spoon, and he was going... I want to know how many people just cringed when they heard those sounds, because I left that dinner.
Dude, Cousin Ben is the same problem. I don't care, dude. I do not care. People can chew and make as much noise as that. I do not care.
Those sounds just make me feel uncomfortable.
It's because you're weak.
I don't know about that. It's probably because of my sophisticated upbringing.
We had the same upbringing.
I don't know. There was a decade and a half. There was some maturing that went on in the family.
Look,
some people grew.
I appreciated when I went to Japan where we could slurp without shame. It's just such an enriching experience to be able to just suck your soup. You ought to be able to. It makes sense. It makes no sense to eat it quietly. Logically, it does not make sense.
Look, our European ancestors wore wigs and high heels, and I feel like there's a lot of things we left behind. But good table manners was one good thing we kept with us.
Whatever.
Soup slurpers, that's my problem.
All right. Everybody has their thing. One thing I wanted to throw out there, one more thing was we're looking for an intern.
Yes.
To come work at Gritty. We're looking for someone with videography, video editing skills to come on. If you're interested.
Preferably with Final Cut experience.
No, I'm open for whatever, man.
Really?
Whatever. I happen to use Final Cut Pro a lot. I'm very familiar with it, so it makes working together easier. But I'm serviceable with Premiere, so I can mess around with that. But really, I don't want to be. I need the individual, the person coming on board to do that. So we have a lot of video we want to produce on a more regular basis, but our bandwidth is just limited. We need some help. So if you're interested in checking out an internship here with Gritty, send us a note. Go to briancall.com and just contact us through the website there. And speaking of which, we have some black bear footage that we're going to release, like a week-long series of videos from some awesome black bear hunts from years before, as well as we have some turkey footage from this recent one in Oklahoma that we're throwing together. It's like a three-day edit, 3-day series. So we're going to try to start ramping up the YouTube production as far as films go of our hunts, and you can follow along and laugh and, get excited, and, I think you'll enjoy that. So be looking for that. We'll talk about it on the podcast. We're moving in. We'll ramp that up. It's tough to edit video and get a good podcast going and keep that up. Next week, we will publish a show, maybe this week, with Kip Fowler. Kip is he's just a legend in
man's a killer
in mule deer hunting and archery mule deer, and so we're going to sit down with Kip and pick his brain. I think you'll really enjoy that. If you don't know who Kip is, you should check him out, especially if you're a mule deer hunter or want to be a mule deer hunter. It's good stuff. And I am leaving in a couple of days to go hunt bear. I'm so stoked. Spring bear.
With Ryan Lampers.
With Ryan Lampers in some wilderness area. Jeff Lusk. We're going to a place that we will not tell you. And
can we get a state?
It's like over the counter. It's an awesome public land. It's quite the grueling. It's a grueling test of fortitude and ability, no doubt. We're going to film the whole thing.
You're going to walk some logging roads in some place. It's whatever. I don't see it. It's a bear hunt.
There's no roads. It's going to be cool. We probably won't see a bear, but hey, it's going to be awesome. Because
you're going to hang out with landers.
It's going to be
at the end of the day.
It's going to be awesome because we might die. So yeah, Ryan Lampers. It's going to be fun. Hunt, harvest, health, stealthy hunter. Looking forward to that. I just sighted in my rifle today. Getting all the backpacking gear sorted out and preparing for the trip. And that's another thing. Food prep and gear prep we've videotaped. We've been filming all that stuff, so we'll share that down the road as well and let you know just our opinions on what we're taking with us and why, and you can leverage that as you will. So with that, let's move on to the show.
Mm-hmm.
Blaine Dickerson, Curtis Frank Design. I hope you enjoy the show. Stay gritty, friends. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
I count. 3, 2, 1. Go.
Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call, and I am joined by my brother, the Gritty Broman.
What's up, folks?
And we have Blaine Dickerson here today as our guest from Curtis Frank Design.
Good to be here.
And for those listening, Kurt,
I know.
See, we're going to get into this.
I know.
We're going to get into this.
You know what? It's fine, though. I answer to Curtis, occasionally to Frank.
A man of many
So,
names.
I
Blaine,
do.
Blaine.
The mystery is real.
Yeah. So
We're going to get into
anyway.
that.
Blaine is the
Mastermind.
the creative, artistic genius behind the Gritty Studio, the table, the design, all the cool woodworking and
All the
metalworking
textures.
that is in this room. So if you've seen the studio, and I've had a lot of people reach out to me and ask me who did it, who did the table, who did all these, all the work in here. Brent's little floating table over here that he works off of.
And you tell him you did it.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm the genius behind it. We had this guy come in and do some work, but
A laborer.
I say Curtis Frank Design, but it's cool to have you on the show today. Anyone who has been to the Mountain Up Studio can go throughout the building and look at the rooms, look at the displays, look at the whiteboard cover downstairs.
That was fun.
Dude, you have
Bullpen next door.
Yeah, you do some awesome work. So I want to have you on the podcast, first of all, to hopefully blow up your business more.
Nice.
People that have looked around and are interested in this kind of custom work, Blaine's your guy. Curtis Frank Design. I also wanted to have you on here to get to know Blaine a little more, learn about your creative genius.
I like that. You keep using genius. I like that. It makes me feel good.
Right. Hopefully, we walk away from this podcast today inspired. No pressure. No pressure.
Sure. No, I'm up to that. I can inspire.
Okay. Before we get started, we're just going to break the ice a little bit with some pet peeves. We haven't done this in a while, section in a while. And now and then it's fun to just sort of, not target anyone specifically. Just,
Oh, good.
there's a certain thing.
I thought you were talking pet peeves about me. Because people have those. There's a list. I think it's published.
Yeah, like if you're going to be here at 10, you'll really be here at 11.
Oh, I get it. That's 11 the next day, probably.
So,
Depends on who you ask.
right. So, Blaine, what's your pet peeve?
Well, I have a lot of pet peeves, a lot of soapbox issues, but the one that just continues to resonate right now, because there's so many reminders.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go on social media, you can't watch TV, you can't listen to the radio without having a reminder about privilege. Privilege related to race or gender or gender identity, which is something I'm struggling with. But
Right.
I just keep thinking that privilege is something that we create or negate on an individual level.
Mm-hmm. You're speaking my language, Blaine. Like extreme ownership.
Yeah,
It's all you.
absolutely. Ask David Goggins about it.
Yeah.
He'll tell you.
Can't hurt me.
Can't hurt. No, but I just, I was watching white entertainment television the other day.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's my favorite.
Wait, no, I wasn't. Because there is no white entertainment television.
Oh.
Because if there was, the world would have
People would lose their mind.
hissy fit. But you can tune into black entertainment television if you want. Well, here's the deal. Like, when I ordered my White Lives Matter t-shirt,
Mm-hmm.
it took forever to get here because it didn't exist. But honest and true, Black lives matter. They do. So do Asian lives.
Right.
So do Mexican lives. So do white lives.
baby
All lives matter.
The aborted baby thing.
Well, and the thing that really kills me about this too is when you start going down this road, like, for example, what's that thing when they give you a college
Degree?
scholarship? Affirmative action?
Racist?
Oh, gosh. Because you're Native American or you're black or you're Hispanic and they have to meet a quota at the college.
Right.
Money.
What's insane about affirmative action is it's based on skin color. It's not based on economic privilege. It's not based on giving a leg up to someone who's poor.
No.
It's based on your skin color.
No, the next door neighbors that are in the hood, that are in the poverty-stricken section, where they're all single mothers, and you got the black kid and the white kid. The white kid doesn't stand. He's not. Where's his scholarship? There's not an application for that. There's not.
No, it's insane. I'm all for giving a leg up to those that are underprivileged in terms of economic status. They're born into a really poverty-stricken place. That's not anything to do with the color of your skin. And you cannot tell me, I'll have this debate with anybody, that America is a racist place when you have Obama as your president.
For 8 years.
And Oprah Winfrey and Will Smith. We love black people. The entire NBA. And the NFL, like I do not see skin color. I don't see it.
I agree, and honestly, it is. You asked me pet peeves. It is one of the things that gripes my soul every day, because it's in your face all the time, and it's so okay. The movie Black Panther. Oh man!
I mean that place that's about that country that put up a wall and isolated itself from the rest of the world, and it did great.
Yeah, that's the one.
Weird.
Yeah. Like every other country that's put up a wall. Anyway, no, but we're so stoked that there's a movie with all this black pride in it. What?
Yeah. Where if you
White Panther.
If you did White Panther,
man, I am so excited for the sequel. Do you know what it is? It's going to be Asian Panther.
That's people crap on Asians.
No
one cares.
Have you guys seen the movie? Have you seen the movie Crazy Rich Asians?
Yes.
It took me a minute to get into it, but oh my gosh, that was so funny. But there again, they're so super stoked that it was an all Asian cast. Hold on, isn't that racist? Isn't that segregatory?
Well, the thing I like about, in general, my Asian friends.
Oh, I thought you were going to say heritage.
Because I went to Japan on a mission. Lived there for a couple years, speak Japanese. It's a little rusty now as it's been more than 20 years ago. But what I like about that is they're not playing the victim card.
No, they're going out and getting it.
They're just crushing. Crushing.
They're dark horsing it. They're keeping their mouth shut, head down, working hard, and they're going to take over.
They're not screaming for reparations because we locked them in concentration camps during World War II.
Or made them build a railroad or a million.
Or enslaved them to build railroads across the West, the Chinese.
I don't know. I think quietly they are still mad. I hurt my finger the other day, went into the doctor, little tiny Asian lady doctor. And the way she examined my finger made me feel like she was still mad about the war.
Well, I think that's the exception more than the norm, right? But yeah, I think that it doesn't serve any purpose if you adopt the attitude of extreme ownership. So first of all, adopting the victim mentality and screaming for reparations, how does that actually help you? As a parent, if you go and you tell your child, well, the world's stacked against you, no matter what you do, you really can't get ahead. You're doomed to fail because there are people who just don't like you because of the way you look or your color of your skin. That doesn't teach people to overcome obstacles. It doesn't teach people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
No, it gives them an excuse.
Gives them an excuse to not succeed. That's, I think, the ugliest part of it. Any intersectionality or politics or any kind of, race baiting, any of that, it doesn't serve there's no value in it. Where if you take extreme ownership and you own all your choices, let's say you run into someone in life who's extremely racist and treats you bad because of you're white. Dude, you overcome it. You go around it. You get yourself involved with people who support you for who you are, not the color of your skin. People are flawed. You just overcome. Move ahead. There's no excuses.
Well, that does happen to me because I'm white. You know what my chances of winning a Grammy are? They're a lot less now because there's a lot of babies out there crying that nobody won an Oscar of a certain race. Nobody won a Grammy or an Oscar or a whatever. How skewed do those awards get? Are we really looking at the best? Or are we looking at the best of a race and we have to include so many of that race?
Right. The very action of selecting people by their degree of oppression, a group of people and assigning them a hierarchy based on their degree of oppression, the very act of doing that is racist.
Yes.
The very act of saying you're trying to be not racist is acting racist. When you segregate people by their group and their level of oppression by their group, I just get tired of hearing about how every black person in the world, in the United States, is poor, can't do math, can't succeed, can't win. When you have a black president, you have a ton of millionaire black people who I love to follow, educated, radio. Like, I don't see a difference. Morgan Freeman on the show being interviewed by Don Lemon.
He's about as smart as a lemon.
And Morgan Freeman's like, there's no racism. No, haven't experienced it in my life. It doesn't exist.
And there are those beautiful,
and he's just like,
there are those beautiful people.
Doesn't know what to say. And I love that he stands up for that. And he's like, the more you talk about it and you focus on affirmative action and all these, the more you hold on to racism.
Can we give a shout out to Kevin Hart?
Yeah.
Who should have hosted something the other day.
Love you, Kevin Hart. Mm-hmm. If you hear this, yeah. I will build you furniture for free. Love who you are, brother.
Yeah, no, it's that's a good pet peeve. Very, very relevant today. Brent, what do you got? Moving on to something else. What do you got?
Mine's not as important.
It's real trivial.
I just hate when people touch my beard.
People touch your beard?
Strangers.
No.
Strangers come up and touch me with their dirty little phalanges. Dead serious. Like, it's one thing if it's like a 2-year-old because they're like, they've never seen someone with a beard. That's one thing. But I'll have people who will come up to me in the grocery store and will touch the side of my face. For all I know, they just wiped their butt with their hand with no toilet paper.
Do you touch back?
I should.
I should touch their face back
start
or
touching
their mouth.
Their face.
Touch their mouth.
Just start groping around one finger inside their mouth. No, it drives me nuts. Do you know how many hands are dirty?
You feel passionate about this, brother.
Well, Brian, just imagine when we were at the expo, how many hands did you shake?
That's one heck of a beard you got there, too.
Thank you. I am working on it.
That is a beautiful thing.
I've been growing it for a while. My wife allows it until she changes. Otherwise, I'll keep it. But people, you don't touch another human being without express permission. It's akin to rape. If I walked up to a woman and just started touching her, I would be in jail.
No,
not if she was pregnant.
She's pregnant, it's
and
fine.
you touch her baby bump.
That's
dude,
what I was just going to say.
I totally get why pregnant women get pissed off about that.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, dude, I don't. And here's the other thing. Sometimes they're drunk. Sometimes they smell like weed. Those aren't cleanly people. It's just not. Like, not only that, but like the beard, it's literally attached to my mouth. My mouth.
And then their germs just crawl up your beard.
The mouth is a sacred orifice. It really is. It's one that you don't go near ever.
That's a quotable right there.
It really is. And here's the other thing. It's the first line of defense. If you have bad teeth or whatever, you get sick.
Brent has tackled that.
Yeah, he felt really strong about that. But I can
don't
see.
Touch his beard.
It's
but
just
without
weird.
permission. Now, if I come up, if Tanis walks up and says, "Can I touch your beard?"
Yeah, totally. That's one thing. But if I tell you no, you need to look back at your life, maybe look in a mirror and figure out maybe why did Brent say no?
Maybe sanitize your hands and then ask again.
Yeah. Or take a shower.
All right.
Wow.
Well, Brian, do you have a pet peeve for us today?
I actually do. My life is fairly public facing, shall we say. People can see it. One of my pet peeves is whenever I share something like shooting a bow or doing a squat or a deadlift, anything that is just me out there doing my thing, loving it.
Did you say popping a squat?
No, doing a squat.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's
yes, Brian films himself popping
like a back squat. It kind of irritates me when I get a pile of people telling me I did it wrong. People feel the need to be your coach online. Complete strangers.
Online, not in person.
No, they would never do it in person.
Right.
I mean, they don't just walk up to somebody at the gym and go, "Hey, that was wrong." I do sometimes, but That's in person.
But at least it's in person.
And I judge the.
I ask beforehand, hey, I don't want to step on your toes, but can I give you some advice or just my opinion on something? That's totally different.
But when you do that in person, you calculate the risk of doing that.
Yeah, can I take that person or not if it goes south? The answer is normally yes.
The risk, even if it doesn't come to a physical altercation.
It's just online when someone says you did this, and this wrong, and you need to do it like this. So often, especially when you're at a certain level with, let's say, a clean and jerk.
I just learned what that was.
Yeah, and you're at that level doing that lift. Once you get to a certain level, you're really splitting hairs when it comes down to how you're doing it, like technique or whatever. Same with shooting a bow. I mean, you can kind of get in there. It's like if you're proficient, if you can 12 ring every target under 40 yards on a 15 target course, and someone's telling you you're doing it wrong, it's like, well, maybe not. Maybe you do it your way, maybe I do it my way.
Sure.
So I just encourage people to say when they see something online, that when they see me shoot a bow, please just say, that's nice. It's nice to see you shooting a bow. You don't have to come out and tell me I did it wrong.
Right.
I think part of that is that we were all taught manners when we were kids and etiquette when we were kids about how you go out in the world and how you treat people. And then these adults, halfway into our lives, the internet came into being. And then there was no rules. There's no etiquette.
And also Brent's generation.
It's amazing. Yes, we have given you many things. Facebook, Snapchat. You're welcome.
He's taking credit for Facebook.
That was more my generation.
Questionable.
You may have given us Instagram.
Maybe. I
don't know. I think my generation gave it to your generation, who then ran with it.
I don't know about that. Brian's pretty old. He's like 84. So I mean, like,
I think Brian's just a year too younger than me. So let's keep that.
But no, there's just no internet etiquette out there.
Let me ask this: are you afraid of criticism? I know you well enough to know that you're not. So
we read critical
what
comments.
is it? What's the difference? What is it?
If I post something and I say, "Hey guys, what could I improve? Look at this. Look at how I'm shooting. What do you think?" And I get feedback, that's great. When I post it and say, I had a great day today, I was shooting blah, 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 and they all chime in and say, you did it wrong, that's where you cross the line. I didn't ask for your opinion. And I have 4 or 5 extremely talented archers and hunters and coaches that are in my life that are helping me get better.
Right.
That are probably better than
that
you.
I trust and value.
A qualified person.
Yeah. I don't know so-and-so online. I would say 8 out of 10 times when someone tells me I did it wrong, they're wrong.
Ryan, I don't know.
I did it just fine. I did, and not that I'm too arrogant to take advice. It's not that. It's when someone tells me I did a squat wrong, my knees are caving, or I wasn't stable in the bottom position. It's like I probably know more about that lift than the guy giving the advice.
How many followers do you have? Say Instagram.
I don't know, 65,000 or something.
So that's a ton.
I mean, there's people with way more.
No, I know. There's always going to be somebody with more.
There's going to be a percentage of people who chime in. Yeah.
I notice this with everybody that has a lot of followers or any topic that gets a lot of attention.
Yeah.
You get all the yahoos that are wanting to chime in and say their thing, and
that's why I've said repeatedly, I'm sort of backing off social media. I go in waves. Where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to share. I'm going to get out there and really, I feel it's genuine. It comes from a real desire to share. And then Frank Designs, Curtis, Blaine, Dick,
part of it is that
Dickerson.
It's right.
I know
there.
it's right.
It says Curtis Frank on his forehead.
Blaine, I get to a point where I just want my life to be private again, and I just stop posting to Instagram for a week or two.
That's got to be hard.
And that's my personality. And I listen to my personality.
I also cannot post for the sake of posting. When I post something, it has to be something worthwhile or interesting to me. I can't just throw something up there for the sake of throwing it up there.
There's certain things I'm excited to share that I want to be like, hey, check this out. Not just because I think it's cool. It gets other people excited. Jordan and I did a run up the mountain. It was 3.5 miles. Came back. I walked in the gym, and the guys were a bunch of guys were around a barbell doing a deadlift. On the barbell, just multiple reps, and it was 230 pounds. And I walked in, and I was like, I'm feeling spry. Let me see if I can clean that, And I just power cleaned it to my shoulders.
Because you had just run 3.5 miles.
Yeah, legs were a little shaky, but I was feeling loose.
Feeling good.
When you're 45, there's moments where you feel it.
Right.
It's not all of the time.
Your T levels are high.
Yeah, so at that point, it's like, give me that bar. Anyway, just lifted it clear to the shoulders, no problem. It felt good. It was easy. I didn't have to squat it at all. I didn't have to split jerk. Didn't do anything. Just pulled to the shoulders, felt good. I haven't done that in a while, and I haven't done anything to lead up to being able to do it. Just did it.
I have an idea for you.
Felt great. I wanted to share that. Like that.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Is something like, cool, this was fun. Gets other people excited, gets me excited. And then it makes me want to go back. For me, gym time is playtime. Adult playtime.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Adult in a non-XXX way.
If you're not rushed, if I feel like I've got 45 minutes to crush a workout, it's not playtime. It's work time.
If you put the word adult in front of anything, it makes it dirty.
Yeah, I
Yes.
know. That is
Adult-
also
adult
we can
film,
thank the internet
Adult
for.
toy.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You got to be careful. But it is adult playtime. It's like grown up. That's why I say grown up playtime.
It sounds dirty, though.
Grown up sounds just about as dirty. Go away, kid. It's grown up time.
All right, moving on. We got these pet peeves off our chest. If you're still listening to the podcast and
Thanks for staying with us.
Thanks for
folks.
staying with us. Blaine,
Yes.
tell me why your name is Blaine Dickerson and your company is Curtis Frank Design. What is this about? Like,
My dad's name is Curtis Frank Dickerson. My name is Blaine Dickerson. So when I was searching for a name for the company, came up with a lot of stuff that just didn't mean a lot to me. But my dad means a lot to me. Mm-hmm. He's the one that really got me started. He's the one that taught me that it's worth it to take the time. It's worth it to do it right. Taught me to use what I have and make the most of what I have. You know, just all those amazing qualities that I wouldn't have had on my own. I got into some trouble years and years ago, and
The real reason it has a different name is because of his checkered past.
right. It kind of is though. My dad got, he stood beside me during that time, but he kind of got emotional, and I was like, "Dad, I'm going to be okay." And he was like, "I'm not worried about you." And maybe that was a compliment. Maybe he knew I'd pull through it or whatever. But he's like, I'm not worried about you. He said, I just didn't ever think that my name would get slung through the mud like that. And that hit deep, dude. That was hard to hear. That was harder to hear than anything else I was going through at the time. And so, rising up, getting past that time, getting into a time in my life when I was being more successful, more productive, and I had to name a company, I thought, this is what I could do. I could name the company after my dad and do something good with his name. And so I called him up and said, is this okay with you? And I also knew that would be a check and a balance for me.
You can't go dinking around screwing this up.
Right. Can't screw it up. Can't let it die. Always have to produce things that are worthy to carry his name. So now my dad's name that I'm very proud of, that he's proud of, that he's worked hard to establish, is on everything I do. So it's a motivator. It's a daily, constant motivator. All the tools in my shop say CFD on them or Curtis Frank Design on them. So I see that name all the time. And it's gigantic for me. It's huge for me. And it works. And it sounds Jewish.
It
but
does.
Jews aren't really as popular as they used to be.
No,
I
but
don't know. If I had a choice between a Jew and a non-Jew, I'm hiring a Jew.
They still have clout. They still have clout, especially in the.
It does seem a little racist.
No, it's not. I want someone who's lowly and destitute and has a little bit of self-loathing. A little bit of self-loathing makes you stick to the job way harder than otherwise.
I hadn't considered that, but I think you may have a point. No, it sounds kind of New York, doesn't it? Curtis Frank?
It does. Oh, absolutely.
It sounds cool. It has a cool...
Well, even the way the logo is written, your logo up here, like, absolutely, there's a certain highfalutin kind of image
but
to
yeah,
it.
I find unless I'm wearing a name badge that says
people call you Curtis.
My actual name is Blaine. Then people will call me Curtis or Frank or Design.
Yeah.
Rarely Design, but
so let's unpack this a little bit with your dad.
Ooh.
You were doing some lousy things. Dad's not happy with you. And he says, oh, don't mistake what I'm upset about.
Right.
I'm not worried about you. I'm disappointed in what you've done to my name.
Right.
That cuts a little deep. That's not fashionable, by the way.
No.
Because parents should.
No, not PC. Not PC at all.
It's not PC. That sounds like a father who's
Took
more
off the
concerned about
kid
himself
gloves.
than
You
he's
know what?
concerned about you.
You know what? I got spanked as a child too.
What a monster.
Dude, tell me about it. I got beat. Brent, nothing.
That's not true.
Nothing.
Brent got spanked until the ripe old age of 7. But then he got cancer. And then you can't hit a cancerous kid.
No,
You just
the
can't.
cancer card. I've heard that's great.
Dude, and
It's pretty sweet. But to be honest, I was laying on the floor sick as a kid for like 3 solid years. It's not like I was doing anything wrong.
there is some truth to that. Bald and puking. But still,
They used to call me Uncle Fester growing up.
Wow, that's harsh. That's mean.
Prednisone will make you into a big, fat, bald kid. You had chemo to that. You're big and fat and bald, and your eyes are all sunken, and you look like you're going to die.
But yeah, a spanking's good for a kid.
So here's the thing, though. Brent's spankings were token. They
would
the
spank
childhood,
me, and then my dad would cry because he spanked me.
Yeah, exactly.
That was
my
that was
dad
my
didn't
mom.
do that.
That
We had
makes
the
you
same
mad.
dad, but my dad was the younger, meaner version, and Brent's was the older.
Brian was the
Kinder
first
version.
child,
No, that's
and
how-
then there was 4 girls, and then me. So my dad had this cute decades of being softened by women.
Right. So that was excellent for you. That worked out well for you.
Great.
So here's a funny story. Every year, as a kid, all the way up into my early 20s, I bought my mom a spatula or some cooking utensil for every birthday, Mother's Day, whatever. Come to find out that she has been seeing this for years, but never said anything about it. But she's been seeing it for years as a reminder to her that she broke spatulas over our butts as kids. So she thinks I'm slapping her in the face every holiday, every Mother's Day. And I just thought it was a cool tradition. Like, hey, I remembered your birthday. Or I remembered it's Mother's Day. I got you a spatula. And she's thinking I'm reminding her of the physical abuse.
Our mom never used spatulas. She just had arthritis in her wrist, so she just made dad do it.
You know what a wooden spoon
Yeah.
feels like on a bare ass?
When you say our mom,
We have 2 different moms.
it's true. My mother, who's also yours, said, "Hey, go get yourself a stick and bring it back." And we had to go into the woods
Did you really?
and choose the stick we were going to get
And you
beat
got to
with.
come back with a decent stick.
And if you came back with something too skinny, get back in there. That one's not good enough.
That's
If
like
you
a
came up with
pioneer
something too
story.
fat, she's like, "That's not big. That's too big." Until you came back with just the right stick, and then it
Wow.
was
Thumb
bend
size. Thumb size.
over, and then it
Rule of
was
thumb.
smack, 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 smack. Don't ever do that again. Okay,
Wow.
that is not what Brent grew up with.
No.
Again, dying on the floor in my own puke. Well, you
Does he
know,
But
does
I
he
will
play
say
that
this.
card a lot?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Seems like he
Even,
keeps it close.
Yeah, Well, he's
In
a
the breast
He's a
pocket.
victim. Cancer victim.
There's probably a scholarship for you.
I
I don't
I'm
know.
gonna look
He's
into
white
that.
male, so
Yeah.
that they canceled out.
yeah. If
Oh,
I was
and
gay, I
he's-
might
and
have
he's
some luck.
straight. So
Straight.
you're done.
No, for sure, though, I really am glad that I grew up in an extremely strict household and that my parents were firm.
Absolutely.
There was no.
You know how much I love my dad? I named my company after him.
Yeah.
That's a clue. Love the man. At the time, though, when he said that about his name,
What was it that made you like rethink things? You could have latched on to all he cares about is himself.
well, I said to him at the time, I said, you know what, Dad? You can keep your damn name.
Sounds appropriate.
And I was so offended at the time because
Yeah.
here I am struggling this hard time, this rebuilding time or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like all he cared about was his name. And I was pissed.
Yeah.
I was mad about that. But as time went on, I looked at what do I want from this experience, this mortal experience? What am I doing? What am
This is my ride.
yeah, exactly. The great camp out, man. What do I want to get out of it? I thought about that, and I thought about any direction I want to go, man. It's mine. Whatever I want to do, it's mine. What do I want to do? How do I want to feel at the end of the day? What do I want to produce? What's my legacy? I started thinking those real thoughts. That's the answer to your question. That was the motivator for me to turn things around.
Obviously, your dad was the tough love type.
Oh yeah.
Like my mom, I was the oldest. and I would ask for permission. Hey, I want to go to this party. I'm 17. I want to drive out there, go to this party, and come back. And she said, sure, I trust you. Go ahead. I had earned that trust over a period of years, right? Went off to the party. My sister would then ask for the same permission, but hadn't earned the same trust. My mother would say, absolutely not. And then my sister would say, this isn't fair. Like, you love him more than me, don't you? Ooh. And my mom's response was, yep, sorry. She's like, no, it's not it. You know, it's just she didn't have patience for it. She's like, you're right. I love him so much more than you. If you were just a better person, I'd like you, but I don't. I love him so much, and I don't love you. And then she'd walk away. It really shut my sister up, and the rest of them too, because they knew that it was manipulative and it was ridiculous.
Right.
As a woman who sacrifices all day, every day for all of her children.
I think it's really good when someone says something really stupid. Just say back what they said so they can actually hear themselves speak.
Yeah.
What was it? Flight of the Navigator, I think. The quote of that is...
Wow, you just delved deep, dude. Like, I'm going to say there's a chunk of the audience that's going to go, Flight of the what?
You know what? I'll go
you
there.
and I, we grew up at the same time.
I'll go there
dude.
if I need to.
Flight of the Navigator, bro.
Yeah, he just dropped that like it was no big deal.
Dude, catch up, man. No, yeah. Flight. I think the
Quote.
the takeaway from that is the only way to win is not to play. And when your sister throws out, you love him more than I do, she's looking for a game. She's looking to bring up conversation and win through that conversation. But your mom's attitude is the only way to win is not to play. I'm not going to play your game.
Oh, when a kid throws a fit, just throws a fit, a 2-year-old. Mm-hmm. My mom was like,
remove the audience.
You have about 2 minutes to get control of yourself, and then there's going to be a punishment. But I understand you're only 2, so you're going to have this freak out.
Right.
It's emotional. It's uncontrollable. You're only 2. But once that 2 minutes was up, it was like 3 minutes, whatever it was time to suck it up. There wasn't, I just get to carry on for 45 minutes. It drives me nuts when I see other parents with their kids, and their kids are going, just freaking out, and their parents are just ignoring them, but allowing the kid to carry on and carry on and carry on.
You want to hand them a copy of Love and Logic?
Yeah. And so
I can't keep my mouth shut.
My mom was like, there was a swift punishment if you didn't suck it up, or you were just removed from the room. So there's no audience. Like my mom's like, you want to go cry? You want to freak out? You want to throw things and break things? That's fine. Just do it where I don't hear it. That's fine. Go have your pity fest.
Yeah. Somewhere
else. You do it in front of me, there's going to be dire consequences.
Yeah.
And so we would go off away from her and then there was no one to see our fit. Right. So what was the whole point?
It has no value then.
That has nothing.
Yeah, my dad would say, you may be excused.
Yeah.
Oh, you may be excused. And that was the cue to, I don't care how you feel right now. You're not being productive. Yeah. I need to say, though, I need to qualify. My dad was an extremely loving person. The tough love part, it was tough love, but there was a lot of love. Like the love was always felt. So he wasn't a mean, prideful person or whatever. You know, he's a great guy.
My parents too. My dad may have thrown me across the room once, or a few things, but
twice.
But I deserved it.
Right.
One time I didn't. One time was just I didn't deserve it. But
he's a parent. He's doing the best he can.
Yeah.
Not only that, but he was a kid raising a kid.
And honestly, if we look back, Blaine, on Brian Call's childhood, there's a lot of things I should have been thrown across the room for that I was never caught.
Right.
So if
you look at
the balance sheet, is still in my favor.
Right.
Let's talk about your creative process, because the way that sometimes I look at what you've done and how you envision your plan, and then you just make it come to life. I mean, we sat down and we talked about what we wanted this room. We looked at what we had to work with and what we wanted it to be.
And then it ended up totally different.
And
this room blew my mind, because I've seen textured rooms for acoustic and stuff, but I never ever would have ever thought about using refurbished barn wood, let alone where do you find refurbished barn wood?
And how this table and how it contrasts with the room and how it all blends.
Right. Well,
I'd like to say this was all my creative genius, but
we can say that. It's your podcast.
I like you, Blaine.
You're going to edit it however you want anyway. So
let's be honest.
Brian Call is the best.
Yes. Thank you. Cheers.
Just cheers, mate. Loop that over and over. Now, as far as the creative process goes, I always want to be super careful to qualify it because I like to use the phrase or the expression, I like to say that I'm gifted. And that may sound conceited or arrogant. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, if I were to give you a Maserati or a Ferrari, you'd feel good about that, but you couldn't necessarily claim it as an accomplishment, right?
Right.
If I just gave it to you.
Right.
So I feel that I've been gifted with certain talents and abilities that are not my own. They are a gift. I believe in a God, and that God is who gives me the gifts. That needs to be first and foremost when we start this discussion. Is that when I talk about how this got designed well, or this inspiration came, or I'm gifted in this way, I'm not taking credit for that. 0 credit goes to Blaine Dickerson because everything is a gift. I work hard. Mm-hmm. I work really hard, and I put my heart and soul into the designs. But who gave me my heart and soul? Who gave me my legs and arms to work with? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's 0 credit that goes to me, and I
see that in like a professional athlete, for example. You can see those that are at the top of their game, and they're very humble about it, and they say, I was good from birth.
Right.
Like, this was a gift given to me.
Right.
I've just been able to work at it versus the guy that's like, I'm here because 100% it was all me.
Night and day, the grind, blah, blah, blah.
I just did it all, and I'm...
Cue the Rocky theme song.
Yeah, I mean, there's a combination, though, Blaine. There's a lot of gifted athletes, for example, that should be in the NFL or the NBA or wherever and never get there because they don't have the rest of what it takes. Gifts notwithstanding, they don't have
I agree. And I'll take some credit for my work ethic and the amount that I personally care and I'm willing to invest. Mm-hmm. Because you're right. There are gifts that are given that are never utilized.
Yeah.
Or underutilized. But I'm a baseball fan. I love it when somebody hits a home run and you see them as they cross home plate, they put their finger up, giving credit. They're not saying I'm number one. They're giving credit where credit's due. And I just love that. So I just try to be careful about that. And I just want that to be a qualifier to anything that I say that may sound conceited.
Yeah.
Because I feel blessed. But as you're asking about the creative process with a room like this, you remember when we first met, the first question I asked you is tell me about the feeling that you want in the room. Because as an artist, I try to never do any project or anything that doesn't invoke a feeling. I used to make cabinets. It sucked. I could make more money if I made cabinets, man. But I won't do it. How much feeling do you get out of the same... I can only build the same transmission so many days in a row. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so the first question I asked you was, what feeling do you want in here? Mm-hmm. And it would be extremely hard for me to produce something that works this well for you if I wasn't able to meet with you and get to know who you are a little bit. And I've also been blessed with the ability to read people very well. So in the first 2 minutes, I knew a lot about you. I felt a lot about you. And so my goal is to bring that feeling, the Brian Call feeling, mixed with your goals for how you want this room to feel. And then I'll study that in my mind. I'll let that consume me. Mm-hmm. And I may make an initial sketch of something which to this day, nothing has ever finalized like it was in the initial sketch. Never once.
Yeah.
Because the initial sketch is more Blaine Dickerson trying to put something out. But then as I consider who you are as a person and I consider the feeling that you want to invoke, which is very different for a lot of people. You wanted this room to be a comfortable place where people felt big and masculine, and that's what it became.
Yeah, open. I want there to be a feeling of history, of the outdoors, but of humanity as well. Like just kind of this, all of it.
And I remember you saying several times you wanted it to be comfortable. You said so many times you want people that. I said, how do you want people to feel when they come in? Like you'd shrug and you'd pause and you'd say, it's comfortable. I just want it to be comfortable. Is it comfortable? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we nailed it.
I do too. And it's interesting you ask the feeling that people want to have when you're designing something, because I go into people's homes all the time and I hate how they make me feel.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the feeling of, I don't understand how you would walk into that particular space and what you like about it.
And you know what? They might not like it, though. They might hate it. I had a guy who is a landscaper, and we did some trade, and he wanted his office redone. And it was this little nook of an office in the basement at the bottom of the stairs, kind of a transition room type of weird, tiny little space. And he said he wanted to not feel trapped. He wanted it to feel open and clean. And so his desk, we actually added more furniture to the place, which you would think would close in, but I did everything out of acrylic and lit it from the bottom. So his whole desk, the face of his desk, and it wrapped around to the top of his desk, the entire thing was acrylic, and it was lit from the bottom. And on the walls, I put panels of acrylic at different, they
depths?
stood out from the wall at different depths and lit all of that from the bottom. So there was a feeling of no parameters, and he was no longer trapped in his space. Very different space than this.
Right.
But he asked for a different feeling.
And he got his feeling.
He loves it.
Yeah, years ago, because Suzanne has a degree in interior design. And
This is your wife.
Yeah, and she designed so many like awesome spaces, and all through college, and then after college, she did it for like 5 years before we had kids, and she painted murals, and she would go into a room like this, and then paint every single wall and the ceiling, and make it flow, and do this trompe-l'oeil stuff, and I'd walk in and see her work, and just be blown away by how that room would transform and how it would feel.
How it would feel.
And the one that had the sky painted across the top, it looked like you were outside. Like and it was lit kind of in the corner, so it just gave it this illusion, and it was like an atrium. And when you followed the bars up that were painted for the glass room that you're in, it felt like you were in a glass room looking through at the sky, and you were inside a room. But you walked into that room, and it felt like you were outside.
Yeah.
It was trippy. And it took them like 2 years. Some of the best artists in the Portland metro area that came and were all contracted to work on this together. It was mind-blowing. And the way that they paint the lines actually crooked to make them look straight.
Yeah.
That threw me off.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. And the mind and the eye, it's an amazing relationship. While we were building this, you heard me say several times, your mind doesn't want to see that. Or this will make your mind happier. This will make your eyes happier. But it sounds fruity, but it's true. Lines matter.
Yeah.
Line lives matter.
I was waiting for it.
No, I was super impressed with Suzanne, because when we were talking about this table, she's the one that came up with the idea that the center of the table would be open, and that we would have these bow ties through it.
Yeah.
She's got to get the credit for that. That was her idea, and I didn't know her. Mm-hmm. I'd only known her for a couple of minutes, really, and I was more focused on reading you. And she comes up with this idea that blows me away and is perfect for the space and perfect for the room.
So cool.
She's awesome.
Yeah, she came in, and the first time she walked into the building, the first thing she did was walk up to all the furniture in here that you had built. All the stands and the tables and the fan. And
fan. I love the fan.
She wanted to know who did it. And then she's a big fan of the artist that did the painting down there.
The elk.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The Technicolored elk.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Just loves art and design. And I know kind of the feeling I want, but I have a hard time
translating that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But that's because that's not your talent. That's not what you're supposed to contribute.
Yeah.
I believe that. I'm not saying anything bad about you. You have what you have to contribute, and I have what I have to contribute, and Brett's got what he's got to contribute. You guys have roles in here for a reason.
Yeah.
You do your thing, he does his thing, and I do my thing. And when those things come together, when we synergize like that, you get something like this. And it's awesome. And people feel it.
Yeah.
And it changes lives. Literally, it changes lives.
No one comes into this room and doesn't say, wow.
And it's simple, Blaine. Actually, the room's not
I don't know. How long did it take to build these walls?
I don't want to talk about it. Especially when my client says, yeah, we want these walls, but we want to be able to run wires behind them.
They can't be attached. They have to be floating a little bit.
And can't you just...
We talked offline. That's a Blaine pet peeve. Explain that.
Can't you just... Well, okay, this is you guys, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm mad at you now. This is you guys saying, well, can't you just make it so that if we want to change our cameras and run our wires differently that we can? Sure. I'll put up 9x14 walls of solid wood, but give you the freedom to run your wires wherever you want, whenever you want. I'll just do that. Let me just do that for you.
Well, it seems like you did it.
I did. Yeah, exactly. Then you come back in, it's done, and you're like, see, that was easy.
No. Now, I did recognize the difficulty, but no, it was perfect.
But
I didn't. I was like, you can just do it, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, and it just got done. But that's the thing, too. It is cool from my end, too, because I think, oh, man.
It's a challenge.
This is what they want. And so I freak out about it for a little bit. I give myself a second to freak out.
Yeah.
I think that's healthy.
Yeah.
You have to allow that to happen. So you freak out for a minute, but then you think through it. You think backwards through the process. So I know you want to move wires around, so I've got to stand the wall off, but you're going to want to, your wires have to be able to move the next day if that's what you want. So I can't stand it off in a straight line.
Yeah.
I've got to put pucks on the wall instead of just stringers.
Right.
Anyway.
It's amazingly quiet in here.
Oh, we shut that door?
The noise dampening, anyway. There's no echo like some of the other rooms.
Right. All of the other rooms.
Mm-hmm. The sound just doesn't reverberate.
Well, that was one of your qualifiers. That was one of the things you asked for, and so that was one of the things I thought a lot about. And that's why you've got the different thicknesses of the wood, because sound has a hard time off of an uneven surface.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very damp in here. The sound is damp. I love it.
So when you come up with your design and you run it by the client, how do you continue with that creative process? You take in new feedback, new information. I mean,
this is what happens 100% of the time. I have an idea, an initial idea. Maybe this is the second idea after the very first drawing, but still the initial concept. And I have kind of an inkling, maybe 10% of what's coming. But then as I'm falling asleep, I promise you this is 100% every single project.
Yeah.
As I'm in that, that feeling you get, kind of that tingly, you're going out feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's during that period of time that I get almost a YouTube video of what it's going to be. And this is how I know it's not me. Because the ideas come. Einstein knows all about it. He talked about it a lot. So the idea comes, and I say to my sweet sleeping wife next to me, I got it. And she says, which one? Mm-hmm. And I'll say the podcast studio. Or I'll say the fan table. Mm-hmm. Or whatever. And I don't think she cares.
But she indulges you, right?
But she
that's
indulges.
what my wife does.
She's amazing. My wife is the greatest. But then I get it. And it's literally like a YouTube video or whatever. And sometimes the instruction will come with it. Mm-hmm. In fact, this table that we're sitting at, you wanted it floating.
Yes.
This is a big, heavy table.
It's gigantic.
So to float this table, I had the vision for it. That's fine. But then how to do it. But I got the YouTube inspirational vision piece by piece, like an instructional video of how to build the base for this table. So,
like when I built a treehouse and I lived in it.
I know about it. It's amazing.
Suzanne designed most of it, and then I would come to her and say, well,
fix this problem for me, honey.
No, like she would design it, and I would say, okay, well, this is what a 4x8 sheet of plywood is like, right? This is the pitch of the roof. Like, there's a lot of things that you can throw out there on a piece of paper and go, okay, this is my idea. But then converting that into an actual item you build can change, especially just given how big a standard window is and how big the door needs to be and all that. She's really good at that. But taking those ideas and putting them into practice and then being really creative, I had to get some help from other people that were engineers or that were also artists in their own way, because you're talking about putting a house in trees.
Right.
Trees move.
I want to touch on that because that to me is an integral and one of the most exciting parts of the design process. Because now we're at a stage where we've got the idea, the customer either has given you artistic license to do whatever you want, or you present it and the customer's okay with it, whatever, and then you start the build. And 100% of the time, the size of a window or you're amongst trees or whatever, something comes up and you've got to work around that. I love that part of it.
I do too. That's why, like, designing the deck and how it would go around the trees, and that the deck would be free floating. We'd use cable suspension rather than a brace from below. I really wanted the deck to feel like it's floating, and suspending it with cables was a better design and faster and easier to build than it was to put some kind of bracket at the bottom.
A little unnerving, I'll tell you that much.
Well, yeah, but the feeling it invokes was amazing. And how many times did your design change during that process to accommodate whatever obstacles you're up against?
So many times.
So many.
And the first bridge, in fact.
The death rope bridge.
I built the first bridge to get to it because the house is out here in the slope, and it's off a slope,
right,
hillside. So the bank was just about level with the deck, so you could just walk straight across. No ladder to climb, no staircase, none of that. It was pretty cool because just getting to the house, walking across the bridge, was a little adventure in itself each time.
Right.
It was taking your life into your own hands every time you got that bridge.
You showed me the pictures.
The original rope bridge was definitely like the sort of thing a guy would build for a treehouse when he's 12.
It's a great idea, but when you think about, I have to get furniture, I have to get, like, everything is going across that
refrigerator.
Bridge. People are going to have to sign waivers,
right?
Just about.
And then the next design, I can't take credit for. That was a genius friend, artist, neighbor, second father figure that kind of put it together.
Shout out to Arnie Chubb of Maplewood Industries.
Yep.
Oregon City, Oregon. Check them out, guys.
And Arnie helped me design it and pretty much built the truss bridge. That was a genius, just plug and play bridge. And the bridge was up in a matter of hours. So stable, so cool, trussed. It didn't have any supports throughout. It just supported itself from end to end. It's 50 feet long. Just
a lot of engineering there.
Just cool. A lot of engineering that I can't take any credit for.
Right, because somebody else had that quality.
Yes.
You had the qualities you had to give, and somebody else had qualities that they had to give.
It's like they had synergy.
Synergy. See?
There he's back again.
Hashtag synergy.
When I built the house and it moved in the wind and so forth, there are things after I built it that I had to address. Like, it moved so much in some windstorms that it became it was a little scary.
Right.
Or how about that your neighbor was a squirrel?
There was that. They moved into the
I bet
roof.
you had a lot of neighbors.
I had to work on that. There were little things that just come, and then the roof needed to be metal, after enough moss and stuff. And
I like a metal roof.
Things just changed. All the skylight changed multiple times throughout the process as you had to get creative. But like you said, I would sit there and kind of just dream about it just before I fell asleep. And I do this today with the podcast, with everything that I do, really. I try to write down those ideas right when they come to me. I have the notes on my phone, and anytime I get an idea, boom, I put it on. I write it down.
Yeah.
I write down ideas constantly. When they come to you in that moment, because I'll kind of have a little dream about my ideas even.
Yeah.
I'll wake up and it's fresh, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do that. That's a perfect idea. I need to do that. And then 3 hours later, I won't remember. Yeah. I'll remember I had a great idea, but I will not remember what it was.
Yeah. That's what it's like being high. Like, after you smoked a big doobie, you're like, man, I solved world hunger. I can bring about world peace. And then you take a nap, and then it's gone.
You got to execute right away.
Mm-hmm. I actually have no experience with that, so I can't really comment on it.
I just won't. No, you addressed the obstacles that you faced in building that treehouse. Mm-hmm. I love the obstacles.
Me too.
I love them. When I was a kid and my dad was building something, we never had very much money as a kid, and so the materials that he had were a big sacrifice financially, whatever materials he had. But man, I wanted to build something out of them. Mm-hmm. I had that drive to build something, but I couldn't. So I would get the scraps. I would get the little drops and stuff, and there was never very much. But if I wanted to build, I would find a way with those little things that I had. You addressed, like, where do you get the materials? It's the challenge of making something amazing out of what you've got. Because isn't that life?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that what it's all about?
That's every single hunting film we've ever had or made.
Right.
You go out there, and then you come back, and what you got's what you got. You can't just go out and get more footage.
Yeah, but your films are gorgeous.
They turn out all right.
I'm not a hunter. I don't know if I should say that on this podcast. I'll probably get shunned. I'm a fisherman.
You like meat.
I like meat. I'm a meatitarian. But those films, even being a non-hunter, those films are amazing. So if you're telling me now that you're trying to work with what you got, it does not come across that way. So kudos to you guys.
Well, I think some of that is we have help now from Keith and Luke and the Mountain Ops production team, the Gritty production team. The way that
you just take over the production team, the Gritty production team.
The way that it works is I get these guys. We share the infrastructure. I get to leverage. Mountain Ops keeps them employed 9 months out of the year. I keep them employed 12, and those 3 months that I get to have them at my disposal,
right?
We kick butt. I'm able to produce some things that I want to produce, but I'm still getting better at that all the time. Synergy. Talk synergy.
Yeah.
The first couple of films that I did with Keith, like Consuming Life, our bear hunt in BC, the other film, Kia Ora, my first trip to New Zealand hunting tahr, I'd never worked with someone else before. I'd never had someone film for me other than Ben and Anthony and I just kind of winging it.
That can be hard for me.
Yeah. So I didn't actually bring a camera on these hunts either, really. I a little bit on Consuming Life, the bear hunt, but pretty much
mostly vlog type stuff.
Most of the footage was all done with Keith, and when we came back, what we had was incredible eye candy and a flowing story, but what we lacked was just the rawness that people are used to when they watch gritty film, of just me interacting with someone or them and me capturing a candid human moment. Right.
Which is one of your gifts.
Yes.
You have the ability, because you recognize that in a way that other people don't, but in a way that other people want.
There's a level of humanity that's in Brian's hunting films that's not there in other films.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I'm captured by it as a, sorry guys, non-hunter.
Right.
But I'm still captured by it because I love the humanity element. Now that's something that you can bring in a way that nobody else can. Just like you appreciate this room.
Yes.
But you don't feel like you could produce this room, but you still appreciate
Absolutely.
it because it's something I can bring.
And Brian makes great use of it.
Right.
And so
the show
when we went out on our BC moose hunt, and then when I went to Kodiak and filmed the Sitka blacktail hunt,
which will come out someday
soon, I brought my camera with me and I filmed full time alongside Keith, who was with me filming, and then Adam Foss filming in Kodiak. Now we have a blend of what I bring to the table in terms of the humanity and the rawness and what I see and what I capture versus the cinematic stuff that Adam has an eye for as a photographer, as a filmmaker, Keith has an eye for. And so when you blend the two and we creatively work on the film together, I feel like we create what I've always wanted to create but didn't quite have all the pieces for. And it is that synergy. It's that creative synergy. And it's surprisingly, with the right team, it's actually surprisingly easy.
Right. Because it's the right team. Because you're taking what you do naturally, what you're gifted with, what Keith is gifted with, what all the different players are gifted with, and you're utilizing those gifts. It becomes a simple, beautiful process.
Keeping the ego out of the process, I think, is critical, because if Keith had ego, so much ego that he's like, I didn't shoot that footage and it doesn't go with the story I'm really trying to tell, in my mind, this dramatic piece. And you want to drop in this goofball section of I guess, human interaction. It's like we could conflict, we could butt heads, we could have a problem where we can't accomplish synergy. But we don't. I truly value and admire what Keith brings, and he does the same for me in return. And so we're able to put something together that people really respond to. I'm excited to share the BC Moose film because I think that's our best film to date. And it's exactly what I wanted to make, filming all on my own and Keith filming all on his own and coming back and making it. We showed it at the movie night recently.
The Mountain Ops movie night, Hunt Expo.
And so we're going to take it to a few theaters. And
Is it online yet?
In different. I can show it to you after this, but
I want to see it.
it was so well received. It was just exciting. It was awesome. It's exactly what I want. That's what I want people to walk away, because so many non-hunters were in that audience because their wives, a few wives came up to me afterward. One dude and his wife came up and she goes, "That was awesome. I am so glad I came." She goes, "When my husband told me we were coming to this,"
and the tickets aren't cheap, FYI.
it was, I think they were $25 each.
Yeah,
or
like
something.
$25
And
each. So it's $50 for the two of them to go see a movie.
So he tells her, "We're going to a movie on Friday night while we're at the Hunt Expo." And she's like, "Oh gosh, a hunting film movie night. Like, oh my gosh." And then she goes, and then he tells me they were all sold out. So I got a seat over here, and then I got you this seat by yourself over here.
Oh, he's scoring points now.
So now,
That's a ballsy
not
man.
only does she have to go, she's going with him to this movie night that's all hunting films. She's not even going to be sitting there. She's going to be sitting between two strangers on the other
that
side.
are in camo and smell like pot.
Right.
Yeah, you could have just saved me the trouble and got me an Uber.
And so she's like, she had low expectations for the evening.
Well, it makes it good for you.
Yeah. So then she shows up, and then she said that our film made the night completely worth it. I think he won like a bow or something.
Oh, is he one of the guys? Yeah. They gave away a couple bows at that thing.
Many gals came up to me and said they were just there because their husband or their boyfriend drug them there, or their dad, and that they laughed and loved it, and they were blown away, and it makes them want to go on their own.
Well, I'm sold on it. I'm a non-hunter, but I love your films. I'm excited to see this one. What's it called again?
Untamed.
Nice.
Yeah. It's just such an amazing place up north to show it in late season snow. It's a harsh place. It's savage, but the beauty and the remoteness are breathtaking. You know, I mean, I'm excited, but the creative process for making a film
Takes forever. And then half the stuff you end up cut out.
But I end up, I definitely, again, I write these ideas down, the things I want to say, the message I want people to walk away with, the emotions, the how to make it flow. Keith can do in a day what takes me about a week when it comes to I can't even recreate what Keith does. Let's not kid ourselves.
Keith is magic.
But you don't need to, right? Because Keith is there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need to. You need to be humble enough to have Keith's help.
Yeah.
And then you produce something beautiful.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love it. It's one of the most fulfilling aspects of life for me is the creative process, engaging in and actively fulfilling a creative process.
Yeah. It's
when you're
exciting.
engaged in that, it's like you feel fulfilled in a way, and you're not thinking about anything else except that creative execution of that thing. I really think it's like the height of human fulfillment in so many ways.
It's because we are creative children of a creative God.
Exactly. I've recently subscribed to this theory that we're just practicing.
I have a theory about food. God created the earth and he gave us this earth, and one of the things that we get to do all the time is low-level manner manipulation through the creativity that is food.
All right, it makes me hungry. No, here's a cool thought.
Yeah.
All of the elements have always been here for man to walk on the moon. But 100 years ago, to say that man was going to walk on the moon was a farce. It was a ridiculous notion.
Yeah.
You know? But people, through the creative process, were able to put elements together and be creative, problem solve,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually man walked on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And man made videos that non-hunter women sitting alone could enjoy. But it's the same thing. And like Brett said, we are mimicking, those of us that believe in a God, we are mimicking a God, a creative God. And when you think about this God, if everybody will indulge me for a minute, he is not creative because he has to be. He's all powerful.
Mm-hmm.
He can do whatever he wants. But instead of just instantly making things happen, he creates because he wants to create. He can do whatever, but he wants to create. And so I think when we feel the fulfillment of being creative, it is because we feel closer to a God. For some of us, for me personally, to take elements that shouldn't be, you take the fan table downstairs, coffee table. Mm-hmm. It's made out of an old rusty fan. I believe it's an exhaust fan from a industrial building.
Yeah.
It's just a rusty old crappy fan. And it was sitting in my backyard for, 5-7 years.
Mm-hmm. That will never be used for anything other than scrap metal.
For anything. So you can take elements like that, and then you put them together in the right place, and you take a rusty element, but then you put a glass top on it.
Right.
So you've got that combination of rustic and polish. And how many people enjoy that fan now? How many people enjoyed it in my backyard? Me.
We were actually, Brian and I were just sitting around the other day with Ryan Bassham, and we talked about how cool that table is.
But you wouldn't have thought it was that cool in my backyard.
No, I would have thought you were a bit of a slob.
I am a bit of a slob. I'm a lot of bit of a slob. But creative minds are seldom tidy. That's what my mom told me.
Yeah, well, I can attest to that. I think that when you talk about life and you talk about God, right? I've said this before, and there's two modes of being, and there's a choice to make here. And I'm going to get real philosophical on you.
Tell me.
Let's do this. Deep. I mean, these are ideas I came up with years ago. I understood years ago, but are now being mentioned often, in certain circles. But this idea that man is just an accident, and we just kind of ended up here, and then therefore there's no meaning, no purpose, right?
Right.
You're just an accident of being, right?
Super exciting idea. Super motivating.
Right. So with that comes no responsibility, right? Because it doesn't matter what you do, because you're all going to die anyway, and it's the end, right? So there's no responsibility. And for some, that's exciting.
Well, let me die now then, because I am tired, brother.
Because you can pretty much live a life of debauchery and anything else you want,
right?
And it doesn't matter. So there's no responsibility, which for some is somewhat liberating, especially if you would like to do bad things to other people and justify it or dismiss it.
Be
right?
An easy excuse, yeah.
So that's great, but with the no responsibility also comes no meaning or purpose in life. There's no point to it all. It comes at a cost, man. If you want to have no responsibility, just own the fact that you have no purpose either and no meaning. And that's a dark place to me. That's nihilistic.
Yeah.
That's going down the road of nothing matters. Opposed to.
Yeah, bring it up, because I feel like you've made it dark in here.
So opposed to the fact that the other idea that this isn't an accident, that somehow or something enacted where we are today and what we are today, that there's something out there that's deeper and more meaningful, and that there is ultimate meaning. Like everything that Blaine Dickerson does, everything that you do matters. All of it. All of it. Every choice you make matters. How you live your life matters. How you treat other people matters. The things you stand for matter, right?
Absolutely.
And in that scenario, wow, you have a lot of responsibility. If everything you do matters, Blaine, you have a huge mantle of responsibility. There are things that you need to do in this life that matter. And with that comes a deep, deep, meaningful life. You get to pick. And to me, I am of the person that believes in everything I do matters, that there is meaning in life and after this life. And therefore I have extreme responsibility to live this life well. And frankly, I feel like humanity we have no idea what consciousness is. We don't know. It doesn't, nothing in the animal kingdom, nothing else on this planet explains our consciousness. That we're aware, that we are alive, that we have this intellectual ability that we have, that we know someday we're going to die. Therefore, we understand time. We understand life and death in a way that no other creature on the planet gets.
Right. As much as we can.
Yeah. And there's no the deer, when it escapes the lion and runs away, it doesn't know that it's going to die sometime. It doesn't even worry about it.
Right.
It's just that moment's over. Now he's all good.
Operating on instinct.
It's a whole different situation. And who knows? Maybe consciousness is some kind of cosmic thing of which everything here is contingent on. Because if we don't have consciousness, then do we even exist? Does this whole planet exist? Does it? Well, because it exists because we're conscious.
Would it matter? Would it matter one way or the other? If we didn't have consciousness, would it matter one way or the other if we existed? It wouldn't. We wouldn't know.
It really wouldn't matter. Then you'd also wonder, does it exist then? I mean, we're getting a little deep here, but...
No, I would say, wasn't this a podcast about carpentry?
But I think when you start talking about art, the meaning of art and fulfilling the creative, those creative instincts that are inside you, and you have your skills. Like, I couldn't do this room, but there's other creative things that I can do.
Right.
And that fulfill me. And the act of being creative, I will say anyone that's depressed and struggling with sadness or depression, first of all, adopt some responsibility. Believe that what you do matters. And then 2, be creative in somewhere.
Do something.
Find your skill, your way of being creative. It might be creative in accounting and spreadsheets. It might be creative with numbers. It might be creative with writing. It might be creative with photography, filmmaking. It might be creative with chopping wood. Kind of like you.
And it doesn't matter because it's all important. I need spreadsheets, but I'm not going to build one, man. Not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You leave that up to me, man. It's neglected.
Yeah.
Not happening.
When people ask me to do math, even small, simple math, I feel offended.
But there is a certain amount of, it doesn't matter though, when the human is engaged in creativity, it's fulfilling. It doesn't matter what it is.
When we accomplish anything, it is an antidepressant.
Yeah.
To accomplish anything, if someone is just depressed and looking to fall asleep again during that day for the 8th time or whatever, if they get up and create a bowl of cereal.
It's pretty low-hanging fruit you're throwing out there.
Hey, brother, listen, there are some creative ways to build a bowl of cereal. I'm telling you this right now.
They have restaurants now that are just different kinds of cereal that you go along and you just pick your marshmallow.
Wow.
Pick your cereal.
Right.
That is a very good market. I imagine there's a lot.
Well, like cold cereal.
Okay.
I'm just saying
I agree.
I'm echoing what you say.
Yeah.
To do something.
And
find, the other thing is, find out what your talent is.
Yeah.
Find out what your gift is.
But let's back up a little bit on that because, so my wife was on a trip recently, left town for a few days and came back, and she's like, so-and-so asked me what my 5-year plan was. What my 5-year plan is. She's like, I don't know what it is. I don't know. And she started to ask a few questions about her 5-year plan, about what it should be to me, and some of these ideas.
She was asking you.
Yeah. And she's like, I just need to find something that is me and fulfilling. And there's a million things that are her and that fulfill her. And I told her too many times, I think people are trying to find that thing rather than making a decision.
Amen. Amen.
Make a decision.
Go in a direction.
I told her I may have opened a CrossFit gym if I didn't do Gritty. I was headed that direction. I wanted to open a gym, and I would have done it. And I would have created an awesome community, and I could be deeply immersed in that space right now. I wanted to own a bunch of property.
And you could have
and
been
do some
fulfilled.
real
You
estate.
could have been fulfilled in that too.
Yeah. And I almost went down that road and got my realtor's license and did my brother-in-law, Jeff Gibbs. I would have gone down that road.
Jeff makes a lot
And
of money.
I would be owning a bunch of buildings right now, and I'd be doing well. I thought about going back to doing construction. What I'm saying is I would have chosen any of those, and then I would have gone there and I would have succeeded. And they all would fulfill me.
And even perhaps if you had gone in a direction and then realized this is not the direction.
That's what I told her too.
That's okay.
If I had gone down that road and gone, this is kind of boring. It doesn't get me.
It's good in a way to do that.
Yeah.
We have to, if we will have the courage to just go in a direction when we don't know where to go, just go somewhere. Because if you go somewhere and you realize it's not the place for you, awesome.
Yeah.
Then you know. And you don't have to worry about that aspect anymore.
I've always looked at those directions and those pathways as the school of life, where I've learned something from that change and meeting and chasing those goals and building something.
Absolutely. I know exactly what you're saying.
I learned from that, which was just transferable to the next thing I did. And here I am today with Gritty and the podcast and the brand. And it's a result of a lifetime of making a decision and doing it. And then going, now I'm going to do this. And now I'm going to do that. And I told her last night, hun, just pick something and do it. And she's so talented. She could go this way. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, is she looking for a job?
She is.
Because she's super talented. And I need a lot of help.
She is super. And that's one thing that she's allowed the indecision to stop her from moving forward.
The doubt.
Because it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, Blaine. It doesn't really matter which one she chooses. She just needs to choose one and do it.
Indecision and fear, they're dams. They are damning aspects of our life. They're important dams. They're important opposition. We have to have the opposition, but it is important to move forward. I love what you said about how all of your jobs have qualified you to be where you are now. If you look at my resume, it's about 80 pages.
Right.
The longest job I ever had was 3 years.
I think creative people get bored quickly.
But I look back at my 80-page resume and I say, this job, this is what I needed from this job to be able to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But during that 80-page process, it was frustrating, man. And I was successful in a lot of things. I was telling Brett earlier, I made a lot of money in sales. I did really well in sales. Drove a Mercedes.
Yeah.
Things were great, except I was going to have a heart attack and I hated it.
Right.
But now, in my current job, do I use the skills that I learned in sales? You're darn right I do.
Yes.
All the time.
Right. I tell people all the time that 40-year-old Brian, because they say, how do I get into podcasting or filmmaking or into the hunting industry? I've said it many times. 40-year-old Brian succeeded where 30-year-old Brian would have failed.
Amen. Yep.
I went through a whole lifetime of building skills and developing talents and abilities, from intercommunication skills with people and other humans, to accounting and finance and running a business, to being able to manage my taxes, which I still hate. And, down the line, right? Spreadsheets, I'm pretty good at those.
Brian loves spreadsheet. Don't let him fool you. He tries to force those on me.
Casey and Jordan come in, and if there's not an app to do what they need, they don't know how to function. I'm like, spreadsheets, they do everything. They do everything. I'm like typing in formulas and doing all this stuff and linking sheets.
And they're like, ugh.
And they're like,
You're
bro,
so old.
Just get this app.
They have spreadsheet apps, I think.
They're totally different people, but being able to fail or even succeed in other parts of life, continue to hone and build you and shape you into someone who can be successful later on.
If you're willing to let it.
Yeah. So often there are people that are very creative and can actually go out, film something, let's say, and actually carry it to the point where they were to fruition, where they share that video on YouTube and people come and they see it and they build a brand off of that. Or it could be a podcast. It could be, just talking about my line of work, right? The people who can put it all together, because a lot of times they can't monetize it from there. Okay, I have a huge following of people who value my opinion and seek advice from me, and I don't know what to do.
That's me, bro. My blood pressure's going up as you're talking about this. Because, I understand the value of, and people have said to me, why don't you have a YouTube channel? Mm-hmm. Why don't you put a bunch of GoPros up in your shop and have instructional videos and blah, blah, blah. And they're building all this success for me in my mind. I'm like, yeah, that's so awesome. That sounds so I'm going to totally not do that ever because
it's a lot of work.
Because I would have to create a channel and I don't know how to do that. Okay. So I'm out.
Hey, Blaine, synergy, bro.
I know.
Because here's the truth. I had enough skill that I could take Gritty from where I started and I could take a full-time 6-figure job where I hardly had to work at all to full-time Gritty Bowman and income and money to support my family. And that's because I had the interpersonal skills, the ability to negotiate agreements and partnerships and leverage partnerships and so on. But about a couple of years in, as it grows to a certain scale, it's not my thing, man. I don't have the skill. And that's where someone like Casey Harbertson, Trevor, having the folks here with that kind of, even Jordan, having the infrastructure at Mountain Ops to help support what I do, that's their thing, man. Building a business, right. Where to invest, what partnerships to leverage, and then how to continue building your brand while I'm the creative guy, man. I'm the, not that they're not, but they also possess an extreme ability to execute on the business side that I'm just,
but you're the creative guy that knows how to build relationships with the people that can take him further.
Yeah.
And you're humble enough to do it.
Well, and I realize, like you said, and when it comes to synergy, and it's critical, just like filmmaking with Keith and myself and Luke and the team, there's the same thing with running the Gritty company. That is something where I need their skills because my skills have only taken me so far. And now it's time to bring in that group to help me while I continue to do the stuff that I'm good at.
So what I'm getting from this is that I'm going to use my skills and you're going to build a YouTube channel. And
hey, if it's something you want, we can talk.
And we're both going to profit by it. Either that or, hey, listenership, anybody out there who wants to get rich and make me rich, let's do this.
Absolutely. It's a little challenging, though.
Creativity and synergy.
Mm-hmm. The execution, I find, is hard. I'll have an idea in my head, and you and I talked about this actually a little bit before the podcast, of staying on track or projecting how long something's going to take and actually completing a project.
Oh, it's horrible.
It's horrible because the film we were talking about, Untamed, how long did that take to make?
Actual hours, not surprisingly fast, but the problem is really
you don't know how long it's going to take to create something.
Yeah, the project could sit there for 2 weeks with no actions taken because we're both pulled in other directions. Then it's okay, now come back and let's re-engage on the creative process on that film. It's really tough to walk away from something that is that creatively intense.
Yes,
for 3 or 4 weeks, and then come back and pick it up. And that happens too often because
we have lives in a job.
Yeah. Well, and you were asking me, how do I gauge how long something's going to take? I get in trouble all the time because I try to guesstimate how long something's going to take. I've learned to triple whatever I think it's going to take. And then it takes double that.
And then they come along with a couple of, can't you just?
Yeah. But every next job I get at Mountain Ops, I'm so surprised I'm getting that job. Because I'm so sure they're furious at me.
Here's the situation with Blaine. In my Curtis Frank design, it's pretty much a one-man show.
Yeah, I've got a couple people that help out, but I have a problem with
minimal
trust.
Yeah. And you're an artist.
Yep.
You are the example, the epitome of the person who gets work because you do such an amazing job. But
Extremely talented.
But not because you're extremely punctual and time driven. Like you get to sort of get a free get out of jail card pass because you're so talented.
I really like hashtag worth the wait.
I just know that if you're going to do something, you just know you're going to get what you want in the end, but it could take some time.
And I've sought counsel.
Yeah.
From Casey Halverson, from Jordan Halverson.
Look, if it's my personal belief, I listened to a podcast that Tim Ferriss did on creatives and how to make money because there's far too many talented artists, photographers, book writers, and so on that are extremely gifted because they have so much creativity and they actually can create that end product. They just can't make money off of it.
Right.
Because that part of their brain or makeup or personality it doesn't exist.
Their gift set didn't include that package.
Right. And so their whole podcast was, trying to bridge the gap on how to help creatives.
Who did this podcast again?
Tim Ferriss.
Okay. Cause I need to listen to it.
I can send you the, Brent, look it up and find the link.
I'll put the link in the description of the video when I publish it.
Send me the link.
And yeah, for real, he goes in and he's like, okay, how can creatives bridge that gap? And it was a whole discussion on that process because it's just a fact.
Yeah, no, I've been trying to hire a boss for years. Literally, like I need a boss.
Yeah,
my product is exceptional, and I know that, but it's a gift. Again, I'm not taking credit for it. The product that Curtis Frank designed turns out is exceptional.
Yeah,
there's nothing like it. And that's fantastic, and I love that about it. But the business side of it is really lacking.
I was blessed with a mother who is the exact opposite of me.
I've always said mom and I are like oil and water.
Yeah, so when I would do my thing, I had a mother who just really pushed on me developing all those skills that are completely unnatural and foreign to me. Mm-hmm. And so
good for her.
Throughout life, I she's such a strong-willed woman. I pretty much had to I just had to do it. There was no getting around it. And so I feel like I ended up being someone who is jack of all trades, master of none. Like I can kind of just about I'm not the best construction guy. I'm not the best builder. I'm not the best podcaster. I'm not the best roofer. I'm not the best at anything, but I can pretty much do it all at a serviceable level. That includes running a business and being creative on the actual content side of things. And I see that as a gap. Most people either have one or the other skill set.
Right. It is very unusual to see both.
When I first met Casey and Jordan, that was one of the things, this is years ago, that they picked up on right away. And they were like, Brian, this is kind of weird. It's kind of unique because we actually see one or the other. We don't see it together very often. But usually the ones that have kind of the whole package are usually the ones that are doing well.
Well, they're an example of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're both very, very creative.
Extremely creative.
You know how intimidating that is for me?
And they're on the ball. To an extent.
My first meeting, I thought I was meeting with Trevor. and Trevor is, I love Trevor to death. But he's the guy that says, well, do what looks good. Mm-hmm. And hands it over. And so I think I'm meeting with Trevor.
Yeah.
And he says, oh, Casey and Jordan are going to be joining us. They're highly creative people that are also very intimidating, and you may think they're going to pummel you.
And opinionated.
And
they have forbidden us from hanging things in the office. They're like, no, that's not okay.
And an opinion that may change in the next 10 minutes. You don't know. But yeah, to meet with them and to have to say, you've asked for this feeling in your retail space, but you're asking me to do things that will not invoke that feeling. That'll be contrary to that. To have to stand up to them
and argue and
hold my own against them. Talk about blood pressure, man. I almost died 3 times. It was a 10-minute meeting, man.
Yeah. No, it's very.
They're awesome.
But they have that blend, right?
They
They
do.
can do they cross over.
They are freaky in that way.
It's pretty cool to be around that. And I got to say, I think, when I went to college, right, I knew, you take those tests and they say, okay,
the aptitude, this is what you should do.
This is what you should do for a living.
Love me a good aptitude test, man.
Right? Like, Brian, you would be good at blah, 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 blah. And I'm looking at it going, yep, I would be.
But I will never.
But I'm looking at it going, but all these things I suck at, I want to get better at.
Yes.
Like, I don't know. This is really interesting. So I go into accounting. I mean, this is a D student in math. I go into accounting, which requires statistics, calculus, trigonometry.
You did that on purpose, huh?
And all this stuff. And I chose this degree on purpose in accounting and information systems, which was completely against everything on my aptitude or you should get this kind of job test. And I seriously struggled throughout college, and then I struggled throughout the early stages of my career. But I'll tell you, when I got deep into my career, I developed those skills that were completely unnatural for me to have because I didn't play it safe and go into the career fields that were custom built for me.
Right.
It was like a square peg in a round hole.
But you experienced growth.
But I did experience growth. And then when I got finally good at those things, I came to the table with all this stuff that most people in the field I was in don't possess because they belonged in accounting because that was their strength and they knew it. So they went into it that way, where I was this anomaly having that skill, but being extremely creative and interpersonal and all these other skills that these accountants and types kind of lacked.
Do you know what I think is cooler than the fact that you possess both sides? I think the cooler thing is that you chose to possess both sides. One side was a gift, and you could have stuck with that gift. That's a road that would have been an easy road for you. Not as fulfilling, though, but you chose the harder road. You chose to develop a skill. That was a choice you made, and you had to work hard for it.
But my mom would always say, she was always pushing delayed gratification. And I always felt like 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road, maybe going down that road and becoming far more well-rounded, developing that side of my abilities that is completely foreign and unnatural, maybe that will, down the road, be a huge asset.
Yeah, I don't understand words like delayed or down the road. I don't. You lost me a little bit ago when you're talking about investing in the future. I'm sorry. We're here now.
Well, when I did that, I remember my mom would say, when I sort of complained a little, she's like, "Well, what did you expect? You went completely against your natural abilities." Yeah. The thing is, those natural abilities, they never left. They come, like you said, they're just gifts.
They're gifts.
The other stuff I honed, and then I'm telling you, it is what's helped me do what I do today.
So here's a question. How do you know the difference between when it's time to go after something and hone that skill and when it's time to synergize with somebody who already has that skill?
That is a good question. I think I have been guilty more of not synergizing,
of going after it to have it.
Yeah, Brent and I grew up in a house where our dad did everything.
If something's broken, Dad has to fix it.
If something broke it,
right.
Dad fixed it.
That was my house
never
too.
Called a professional.
Right.
He got a book. He got the internet. He went to Home Depot how to do classes. He learned. Someone showed him. He did it himself.
Yeah.
To the point where
same home
where you're like, Dad, you spent 4 weeks doing what would take 1 day.
Oh yeah.
For a professional, and it would have cost you $200 or $500, but it would have saved you 4 weeks where you could have spent your time.
The old man didn't have $400 to drop. That's where it came from.
No, I get that. And I fall guilty of this all the time. I've built 3 sawmills now to mill out logs into lumber. And the time it takes, and my daughter, who's extremely intelligent, she's 15, she'll be 16 in a couple months, but she's well beyond her years in intelligence. And this is like a year and a half ago. She's 14 and a half. She says, Dad, wouldn't it be smarter to just buy a sawmill? If you look at your opportunity cost, and I was like, are you serious right now?
Yeah.
Did you just say opportunity cost?
But she's right. And I wonder what it is sometimes. Why am I so driven to create a tool when it would be smarter to buy it?
That, I think, is also the challenge of someone that's very good at what they do. It's really hard to outsource. Like having Keith make a film with me, that was hard. Like
right.
And the first bit was rocky. You know, I like the films, but not like I like the new films, and that took time. But it gets to a point. To me, the question is when do you stop doing everything on your own? When do you decide that you're going to actually bring on some synergy into the process? For me, you've hit that point where if you're going to grow, you've got to have help.
Yeah.
Having Brent come on the team, and work full time, that got to a point where yes, I could continue to do all of the editing myself, all the filmmaking myself, all the, doing it all by myself. I could do that, but I saw where I was bottlenecked.
But your goals were bigger than that.
I was done.
Yeah.
If I was content with this sliver or staying at this level, that's where I'm at. Or I hire Brent, I hire Keith for a few months. I figure out how to justify the spending, work the budget, and so on, make some sacrifices, then grow.
Right.
And there's been huge growth, and it's because I was able to enlist the help of other people.
Speaking of which, is now a good time for me to plug something?
Plug away.
Okay, here I am plugging away. So Curtis Frank Design is opening a new product line. It's a home goods product line: candle holders, clocks, cutting boards, things like that. Toilet paper dispenser, super awesome toilet paper dispenser coming up. Look for it.
Wow.
Yeah, no. So, this is something that I have known, like a production line of things.
Smart.
Not
smart.
Not podcast rooms.
Right.
Because they're very custom, very individualized. I get so sucked in, and I lose money every time.
Yeah.
So this is my sister actually came to me, and she was concerned for me.
Yeah.
She's like, "You're dying.
Yeah.
You're way older than you should be, and you're dying because all you ever do is work, and you're not getting any richer.
Yeah.
And so you need help." And I was like, "Yeah, I recognize that I need help, but I don't know how to even get help." And she's like, "I'm going to help you." Mm-hmm. She's very smart. She has a lot of skills that I don't have. And she kind of pushed the synergy on me. And so she's the muscle and the brains behind this new product line that's coming out. But it's going to be awesome. It's going to be super cool. And it's going to help, that could be the bread and butter, and then my mind and my soul is more freed up for the custom stuff.
One of my mentors that we talked about earlier that helped me build a treehouse, Arnie Chubb, Maplewood Industries. He owned a metal fabrication place where he does metal work that's phenomenal, and super creative artist. He's built a lot of things for the city of Portland, and his art can be seen places. Plus, he's just he builds hot rods, chops hot rods.
That's
cool.
Awesome.
Hot rods.
That's all. I've always wanted to do that.
He's just a freaking artist. And but also he's that Casey Jordan kind of skilled at both things, business and the other side. But I remember going up there to his shop one day as he was helping me build brackets for the tree house and stuff, and supports. And we're hanging out in his shop, and he was just on an assembly line putting metal pieces together through the machine shop.
Right.
Just one after the other after the other. And I was like, what are you doing? And he said, well, just fulfilling an order. This isn't like all your custom work. You build like staircase rails for multi-million-dollar homes, the Street of Dream homes. You do all this amazing, talented work. Why would you spend time on a assembly line, basically, and just put this fulfilling this part order? And he's like, because there's good economics in this. I can do both, and having this product line and selling that product line outside the custom work is a huge base for his business. Yeah. And I think it's smart, especially in today's, if you're going to do custom work, you're pretty much tied to a local network of work.
That is a struggle, yeah.
It's whatever the supply and demand is in this local area, and you're only able to serve so many people in that localized space. Now, if Curtis Frank Design has super legit products that then can be offered online, now you're dealing with a huge market that opens up and sees your talent and your skill and is able to partake of it from distance. Anything that's shippable, anything that's and so you're able to scale what you do on a major level. So I think it's
every
smart.
business person who's smart at business has always told me you need to be scalable. Mm-hmm. First of all, it took me forever to figure out what scalable was, and then I thought, well, I can't be scalable. I'm a custom furniture,
one guy.
Custom space designer. I invoke feelings. How can I be scalable? There's only one of me.
If you build us some freaking coasters, for this fancy
Let's
desk
do that. Let's do that.
You talked about.
Then we could do a giveaway or something.
Yeah. Then we can do. We can offer those coasters every week. So get your awesome coaster.
I'm committing to you and everybody who's listening. I will build the coolest coasters ever. We're gonna do that.
Yeah. And I need different coasters. This is the Yeti mug. It's kind of largish. And then there's the Yeti tumblers over there and the Yeti thermos. I perhaps need custom.
Can't you just make different sizes?
That's what I mean.
Can't you just,
Yeah, can't you just?
Custom fit?
I can just.
And I expect them to be cool. Maybe even with some antler horn somewhere incorporated in it.
We can get you some horns.
Give me some horns. That's an awesome idea.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm on board, man. Let's do it. No, but it took someone else coming to me and saying, I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
You don't have the skill set to do this, but you need to be doing this. So I'm going to hold your hand and I'm going to help you.
Well, I'll tell you what, my sister Katie was.
That's my sister's name.
Really?
Yeah.
My sister Katie, she was a big part of why Gritty exists today. She watched me do little films and videos all the time. She watched me write things and share my ideas and take photographs. And she said, you need a blog. You need to share. You need to put your stuff out there. People want to see your ideas and they need to see the stories you're trying to tell. And I was like, that's lame. People don't want to hear my story.
See, that's a pitfall that we all fall into.
And
there's the doubt.
Yep.
And then I'm like, when do I fit it in? How do I balance all? I got a family, a kid, a full-time job. And then she actually stepped up and said, I'll do it for you.
Yeah.
I'll do your website. I'll do your this. I'll do your that. I'll just do it for you. All I ask is that you actually
do it.
Right.
Create stuff. And then she did it for me in all of her spare time as a mom of 5.
This is so strangely similar, like eerily similar.
Yeah,
right down to the name of our sister.
She wanted to see me and Gritty be a thing,
right?
And she held my hand. I remember the first couple of videos I put out. Some of them were the Gritty tips with me and Mark Brownlee making jokes and spoofing things, and some early videos that I put in the Full Draw Film Tour. And I remember when I went to publish some of these things. My first podcast.
Sweating bullets.
I the idea of putting myself out there for public consumption and criticism. I don't know. I just, the whole idea of no longer being a private person and being an open person, man, it gave me so much anxiety.
We've come full circle from that, haven't you?
Well, I actually gave her the videos and said, I'm gonna disappear for 4 or 5 days. I just can't bear to see what happens.
Yeah.
And I'll check back. And I needed that mental barrier. I needed her to do it, like publish, post, and do it. I couldn't bring myself to push the button. And it seemed silly. It really was silly. But keep in mind, this is too before people are used to sharing now because of Instagram and Facebook. And, 5 years ago, it was, still
people
really
were
new
just
for me.
starting to make businesses on social media.
So
Right.
I
now you can get a degree in it.
Yeah, what the heck?
But
You really can. You can get a
you
4-year
can.
degree in social media marketing.
You can be
You're-
just a Facebook expert for a company.
You're right about fear, though.
Fear and doubt.
And fear and doubt. And I've talked about this before. Write your fear down, because when I wrote it down, I realized how silly it was.
Yeah.
What's the worst that's going to happen?
Right.
Okay, somebody's going to criticize me. Can I live with that?
They do it already anyway.
Yeah.
Well, here-
behind your back.
Well, now it's pretty heavy.
Here again,
but
we
it's-
have
it doesn't
we have a
matter.
limiting factor. So the choice is, what are we going to do with it? If all I have to build with is the drops that come off my dad's lumber,
Yeah.
I could say, well, there's not enough to build anything, or I could say, I'm going to build something awesome with with these scraps. So a limiting factor. Thank you, God, for giving us limiting factors,
Yeah.
because they provide opportunity for growth. I love the limiting factors. I love the dams of life. I love the struggle.
You should read The Obstacle is the Way. That it's right up. It's exactly what you're describing. The obstacle is the way. It's the dam that's in the way that you need to go through or over or around. That's the path, is hitting the obstacle and then going around it, over it, through it somehow.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, that's what life is about. It's hitting those places and then forging through.
Yeah. It's The Obstacle's the Way by Ryan Holiday.
He also wrote Ego is the Enemy, which I think
I've seen that one.
which I think is critical in today's world. I mean, ego is a topic I think too many people don't grasp or understand, pride and ego. And I think it robs people of their life. They're shrouded in and encompassed in ego and pride.
It is a damning sin in the literal sense of the word.
Yeah. When I first heard I first came across it and where it really sparked awareness in me was I was reading Mere Christianity. And this is early marriage.
That's C.S. Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
And I think
Amazing,
it's a short book, but I think it was chapter
8.
8. Is it 8?
Talks about pride. Mm-hmm. Chapter 8.
Brent knows.
Brent's read it half a dozen times this year.
Because Brent had a real problem with pride and ego. I mean, it was ruining his life. His whole life was... Brent had convinced himself he was one awesome dude. And he was not.
I know what you're talking about. I owned a dog. I lived in a van. And I was 150 pounds overweight.
And he worked at Walgreens. If he could stay employed.
Right.
But he was the cat's meow. He was the catch of a lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't listen to anybody. The man he is today is because he figured out pride and got a hold of it and combats it every day. Keeps his ego in check. And I remember I sat him down and I read, it took a while, but we read Mere Christianity, that chapter. He listened to it.
Well, first of all, when we read it, I had been on a bender and thrown up all over in his basement. So it's not like I was in a condition to get up and leave.
What a good brother.
So, yeah, he trapped me.
I
He
got
trapped
him
me in his
up
basement.
out of his puke. We cleaned
Right.
that up and we got him on the
Had a little
couch.
intervention.
And I'm like, we're gonna go over this. And
Gordon B. Hinckley wrote a talk on pride. That is
that's the other one that blew my... Was it Benson or Hinckley? I think it was Hinckley, and it was
Hinckley.
Pride is the stumbling block of the
Yeah.
of the nation, or pride is
The stumbling block of mankind.
No.
something like that.
But yeah, his talk
And that
talk on pride
That one blew my mind.
and enmity.
I did read that that one was so insightful. That one opened my eyes too. But I think I read both of those to Brent. And we talked about it, and Brent was like, I don't have pride.
The Great Stumbling Block to Zion.
There you go.
That's by President Ezra Taft Benson.
I thought it was
Benson.
Yeah.
My bad.
Bam, baby.
Yeah, you nailed me.
No, that talk is brilliant.
It's life-changing.
Yeah.
It can be.
Absolutely.
If you'll accept it.
And the same with that chapter from C.S. Lewis. And the entire,
You have to be in the right mind frame to be able to accept those things.
To understand them.
Because you can read them, but if you're not in the right place at the right time in your life, they're just words on a paper.
And here's the thing, though. The ego is the enemy is just a secular version of the same thing. Take God or religion or all that out of it. It's just the secular version of the exact same thing.
Right.
Where these principles, these ideas, they've been around for thousands and thousands of years. This isn't like it just popped up. Like humanity has been aware of it since man has been alive. You look at like the story of Cain and Abel. I think that is the oldest story that they believe in the Old Testament. No, the oldest book, even though it comes after the creation and stuff like that. I think that is.
It's the first one, yeah.
It's right up there in terms of...
You have Adam and Eve and then Cain and Abel.
Cain and Abel were descendants.
And how that story has evolved over thousands and thousands of years. But that story is pride and ego. Mankind, the dark side and the good side. And what happens with pride and ego. And man, if you can grasp that in life...
Pride is a weird thing, and it took me the better part of 6 months to really start grasping it.
And unwrapping it. The first time I had Corey Jacobson read Ego is the Enemy, he said literally the first like out of, I don't remember how many pages, but he had read almost the whole book. And the whole time he's reading the book, he's like thinking of all the people that have pride as a problem.
But not himself.
Not himself. Right. He's like, I'm 3/4 of the way through the book. I'm like, oh yeah, that guy. Oh yeah,
honestly,
that guy.
that's so easy to do, though.
Yeah, and then he's
that's
like,
the trap of pride.
And then he's 3/4 of the way through it, and he's like, oh my gosh, this book about me, and I'm all these things that I, and then it was a life-changing, pivotal moment in his life, and he was able to unpack a lot of things and go back. And be a different person.
It's awesome.
And so I think people they don't realize how and the second you think you got a hold of ego, it'll be back again. It's a daily roll call.
C.S. Lewis says that there's a simple test to determine whether or not you have pride. You can ask yourself, do I have pride? And if you say yes, then good for you. You know you have steps to start taking, and you can start taking them. If you say, no, I don't have pride, you have a problem.
Right. The other way, he said, you know how you know if you have pride? Think of someone who has an intense level of pride
and how much
that
do you
know.
them?
And when you're around them, do you get seriously upset? He's like, because two people with high degrees of pride,
see, I'm starting to not like this.
They hate each other. Now, if you're in a room with someone who has a ton of pride and you're like, yeah, and you're forgiving and forgetting and you don't care, then you have a pretty low level of pride. Like your ego is in check. But if every time he opens his mouth, you're like, dude, he's always just over talking everybody. He thinks he's the hottest thing around. I can't stand that guy. That guy, all he does is show off. If that's what's running through your head,
oh crap,
you have a problem.
Oh man, I guess I need to read the book.
And I do believe that it's life-changing. So in general, I feel like I try to stay on track with that. And so when someone leaves me a review and it's mean, or someone leaves a comment, and I've tried really hard to acknowledge it for what it is and see if, okay, do they have a point? Is there something I really need to retool in my character and in my life, my personality? Be open to that. And that's number one, I don't just dismiss it as, oh, he's just a hater, you know. And then from there, move forward, improve.
That's huge, man. I always wonder about that with, I mean, you do have a lot of followers. You're out there in public, and it's so easy for people to criticize now, these days, with just faceless people to criticize.
Oh yeah,
Someone be half naked on your couch with potato chips dripped all over you, and you can still criticize people.
Definitely, you're going to be called a racist by somebody.
Well, I'm prepared for that. I understand that, and
you don't support the Black Panther.
People could say, well,
"You're done."
I watched it and I enjoyed the movie.
I did too. I just didn't like how the only white person was an idiot.
Well, and I just the part that I didn't care for is how celebrated it was that it was a black.
Yeah, I think it's silly
that it was a black pride film.
I think it's silly.
And I think it's fine for black people to have pride in their race. I'm not saying that it's not, but it was silly to me that the opposite couldn't be tolerated in our society, that we couldn't have an all-white film or a white pride film and be proud of it and promote it in that direction. That's what I found silly and prideful.
Yeah.
But maybe that just is telling me I need to work on my own pride.
Maybe, but there's this stereotype that if a bunch of white people get together, all of a sudden they're cutting out holes in sheets and throwing them over their heads.
Right.
But realistically, they get together and they write the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights.
Yeah. That was just a joke. I just threw out the tangent there, guys.
Yeah. I know we should probably back off of that. Hey, another book. I'm not a big reader. I really struggle with reading. I always have.
That's why we do audiobooks.
I'm just not a big reader. But one book that I did read that was an absolute life changer was James Allen, As a Man Thinketh.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Do you love that book?
I have 6 copies in my house right now. I give them away all the time.
He probably says nothing comes from corn but corn 100 times. But if you think about that principle, if you plant corn, you're not expecting raspberries.
Right.
Yep. That's the whole point of chapter 2 is he talks about
you're gonna get
whatever
corn.
your garden is, whatever you're throwing around in there, whatever your thoughts are. That's what you reap. That's what you sow. If you're going on social media and you're throwing nasty comments at people all the time, you're going to reap whatever nasty comments bring.
Yeah.
And if you allow, because there's weeds that'll come into a garden. So if somebody makes a nasty comment and says that your squats aren't right or you're not in the right position or unbalanced or whatever, if you allow that weed, it's going to fester in your garden. If you plant weeds, you're going to get weeds. If you plant corn, you're going to get corn.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I'm not open to criticism.
Right.
Throw it my way. I'll evaluate it. I think we're all far too often ready to criticize without really looking at ourselves. It's like if I clean and jerk like 300 pounds and some guy says, well, you didn't quite stick that stance very well and your elbow was bent or whatever.
Can you clean and jerk 300
And I'm
pounds?
like, and he can only clean and jerk 100 pounds. Don't give instructions.
The answer is yes, he can.
That's ridiculous. That's amazing, dude.
My biggest...
Because you're super old.
Yeah. Well,
84.
I would say right now, could I jerk? I probably can't jerk that much.
You have in the past, though, haven't you?
Yeah, my biggest clean and jerk was 345.
Good grief. That's amazing.
I did 325 multiple times. And that's just with going to CrossFit. I mean, it's not like I put in a plan for building up.
Right. I just started CrossFit. My cousin owns a CrossFit gym.
Yeah.
And I helped him with doing some wood walls and stuff, and so he gave me a code to his gym. I'm taking some of the CrossFit classes and stuff. It's horrible stuff that people do to other people.
Oh man, it's sadistic.
Look,
it's rude.
Those people in another life were dentists.
You know what else is rude is my watch, my Apple Watch,
Uh-huh.
because it keeps congratulating me on stuff that shouldn't be an accomplishment, and I'm like, shut up.
You took 500 steps today.
I know. You just set a new record for outdoor exercise. I'm like, damn it. This is 200 yards. I just walked 200 yards.
It's true. It's pretty low-hanging fruit nowadays.
Yeah.
For achievement. If you move your body at all, it's a win.
Yeah, and I'm wiped out because he taught me like what a deadlift was,
Mm-hmm.
and clean and jerk, and like he just taught me, and I just went through the motions of doing it,
Yeah.
and like I'm exhausted. There were 35s on the bar, dude.
Hey,
It was nothing.
Jordan is, I'm impressed with Jordan's fitness. He's getting better and better. We worked on the clean and jerk the other day.
I can't clean and jerk. I have no
It was
form.
horrible. It was some of the worst form I've seen. He's getting a little better. I'd like to see him, figure it out and get better at it because he's such a eager learner. But I'm telling you, those days in the gym, there's something that fulfill me.
Oh, and they translate too.
Yeah.
They translate
do.
to other aspects of your life.
I would say that when it comes to CrossFit itself, like right now, the volume that's at a typical CrossFit gym, I'm struggling with. And I'm fit, and I'll run the top of this mountain, I'll run down, I'll do this big workout, but I'm needing a lot of days of recovery. So this happens to me every wintertime. I definitely go through these seasonal dips. And
Without sunshine,
and
I start dying.
I think it's just a circadian rhythm thing. It's cyclical for sure. But I will say over the last 3 years or so, it's trended downward and what I'm able to do. And I just did that podcast with Hillary
Yeah, I listened
about
to that.
testosterone.
Yeah.
So I go in a week or two to go see the doctor again.
Maybe you want to go get checked out.
I got all my blood tests done and all the results back. And as far as I can tell, because I'm no doctor, but as far as I can tell, the numbers are super healthy. Everything's super dialed, like everything. I got a lot of my thyroid, everything back. Everything's good. The only thing that's off is testosterone levels are just way too low. And I do believe that is a result of the modern environment that we're in, that my testosterone levels being that of my great-grandpa at 70 is a result of the diet and the planet and just things suppressing testosterone production.
I just figure I have weeks or days left because not only you're talking about 345 pounds, that's my donut consumption. And then I warm it up in the microwave in a plastic dish, So,
Oh, dude.
I'm
real
pretty
though,
sure.
she's talking about that. She was like making straight eye contact with me, and my wife had we'd gotten like some fast food the night before, and I warmed it up in the styrofoam container because I was in a hurry trying to get to the expo, and I just shoveled that crap down my throat.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to develop breasts and then die within a week after listening to that podcast.
That
was the scariest, darkest podcast ever, man.
Hey,
I wanted to name
here
that
to
podcast.
just share my ideas.
Yeah. And
I wanted to
scare
name that
people.
podcast "Risking Man Boobs."
Yeah,
Tell me that wouldn't have been a catchier title.
That would have been a good title. That would have been. Yeah, that was a pretty scary podcast, and it was super relatable to me because like we're really close to the same age. And
It's just an epidemic.
We could be close to the same build.
Yeah.
If I wasn't clean and jerking donuts all the time.
Yeah, you should work on that,
Uh,
Blaine.
donuts are so
You should.
fulfilling, especially ones
They're-
with filling.
They're short-term gains,
I
long-term
know.
losses.
Oh, you're talking about long-term stuff again.
Yeah.
I could just get
Like
lost.
your
in there.
5-year plan.
Yeah.
All right.
A 5-year plan is to develop a 5-year plan.
Let's wrap this baby up. Thanks, Blaine, for coming on the podcast.
It's so good to be here.
Very much appreciate it. This was fun. People can find you at Curtis Frank Design on Instagram. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's at Curtis Frank Design.
And we will have the link, as always, in the description field on the YouTube video. Go to briancall.com, click on the podcast. You can find this podcast. It'll be in the description field on the YouTube.
There's also CurtisFrankDesign.com,
Okay, curtisfrankdesign.com.
which will soon be featuring the
Products?
products.
Sweet. And when those come up, let us know, and we'll let people know.
Awesome.
If they want a
dude-
custom gritty studio, how do they get a hold of you?
Email.
Email?
Email's probably the best way.
And they can do that. What's your email?
CurtisFrankDesign@gmail.com. I know I got to get rid of the Gmail part. I know it sounds
I still
it's
use
super
some Gmail.
unprofessional.
Yeah,
and
I
everything.
still use Gmail.
I know. It's shame on you.
I get criticized
Get
all
it
the time.
cleaned up.
I was talking to Heavy D,
Yeah.
Dave Sparks, the other day.
Uh-huh.
I was in his house. We were looking at some stuff, and he says, "So what's your email?" And I gave it to him. He's like, "Dude, get rid of that." And like, I thought he was gonna grab my phone and like get rid of it for
What's
me.
funny is that my email, like gritty@gritty.com, it's still Gmail.
Oh, I know it's still
just-
Gmail, but it looks unprofessional. But so anyway, but that's an excellent way to get a hold of me. I'm very responsive to my emails. So it's curtisfrankdesign@gmail.com.
Okay.
So I welcome anything from projects, and I can work all over the United States.
Okay.
I've done-
Yeah, if people have seen the studio and the table and the work that's been done. Brent can add some photos at the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah,
so people
I
can
would
check
love
it out.
people to check out my Instagram. It tells a broader story than just the products that I make. There's some personality in there too.
Yeah.
So yeah, check it out. Follow it.
Yes, and if you have something you want done that's incredible, that resembles, I guess, well, just go look at Blaine's page.
Yeah, you know what else I would love?
Yeah.
Is if people would put out there what they would like to see as far as home goods go.
Yeah, help Blaine out. Maybe
do some research for me.
Like what sort of products other than coasters?
Yeah, after
coasters. I know that coasters. Well, I got to finish the candle project for my sister first, but then I'm sure she'll let me do the coasters.
Yes.
After that, we'll do the coasters, and that really is something that everybody wants.
Yeah.
Which is unrelatable to me because I never use a coaster.
But Blaine,
that's one of my pet peeves.
I know, but I don't have any nice furniture in my home, man.
It's all plastic.
I've got the cobbler kids.
IKEA.
We don't even have IKEA stuff, man. We're just sitting on the floor. Oh, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
So typical where the creative person never has time to do their own. Yeah.
Faucet leaks. I promise I will make some coasters that are revolutionary.
We'll keep the audience informed, folks. Give Blaine a follow on his Instagram, and blow up that page. He needs to post more to it, but
it's a pretty cool Instagram.
Follow that if you just want to see what he's doing and get some creative ideas. Yeah, follow that page.
I will post more to it. I do struggle with. Instagram has kind of helped keep me straight too. It's been a good tool as far as check and balance because I know I'm going to post a picture of something.
Yeah.
So maybe something that would get by and the customer would never know the difference whether I did it or didn't do it. Mm-hmm. It holds me accountable, and so I try to make sure. Anyway, but it's
awesome.
All right, love it. Love being here.
Thanks, Blaine. Folks, sign up for our newsletter at briancall.com. We're going to start sending those soon. And as always, we only ask that you stay gritty.
Stay gritty, folks.
Nice.